it was some turmoil going on in that first quarter. I don't know what it was, but something was going on, man. Caitlin, once again, was showing she was tired of Mo. When Mo missed that lay, and then I don't know what was going on with Maisha Hines-Allen, Stephanie White. I don't know what was going on. I'm going to look at it in the breakdown. When I get y'all the breakdown, I'm going to talk about it. But, man, something was going on right.
What you just heard. That's a coach and her franchise player working through something live on national television. First quarter, Game 4 of the season. Stephanie White directing traffic, Caitlin Clark visibly frustrated, and a chemistry issue spilling onto the floor. The Fever fixed it in real time. But the why behind it tells you everything about where this team actually is.
Y'all just let Caitlin Clark know that she's the only player to drop 30-plus points in a game with 10-plus assists as well. Oh, man, yeah, she's about to come out and ball. I had somebody telling me, oh, she's not about to do anything. And what she come out and do? Almost drop a triple-double. Almost drop a triple-double. You better be glad.
21 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 50% from the field, 50% from 3, 2 blocks, 5 turnovers. That's Caitlin Clark's line against Seattle. And she put it up in roughly 3 quarters before Stephanie White pulled her, sent her down the tunnel, and never put her back in. The triple-double was sitting right there for the taking. So either Indiana made a deliberate decision to walk away from it, or something happened off camera that nobody in the post-game has bothered to address yet.
Caitlin brains, man. Look at this. Look at this. She had 3 people guarding her. She had 3 people guarding her, dog. 3 people. Y'all not gonna guard the rest of the team, man? She's only 1 player. My goodness. Give her a break. Give her a break. Look at her. Look at her, man. Going to work, throwing a dime to Mo Billings. Come on, dog. Beautiful work. And this is what...
3 defenders, 1 pass. That sequence right there is the entire Seattle game plan written on the hardwood. Collapse on Clark, force her to give it up, dare anybody else to beat you. And she keeps making them pay for it. The dimes she dropped in this game weren't highlight reel passes thrown for fun. They were the byproduct of a defense built around fear of her shot. Which is exactly why what happens when she sits down matters so much more than the box score is letting on.
Caitlin Clark came out balling, man. I really feel like Caitlin is expecting perfection right now. She's holding people's feet to the fire, man. She's like, look, we got a ball, y'all. We got a ball out, man. Because honestly, it looked like they were lost on the floor. You had Coach Stephanie White trying to tell people where to go. You had Caitlin trying to tell people where to go. They were lost a little bit, all right? So I think that's the main reason they were having a little back and forth action.
This is the leadership shift nobody was prepared for. Last season, Clark deferred to her veterans, took her lumps as a rookie, and let the team figure out its own pace. Year 2, she's running the room. She's correcting teammates mid-possession. She's pointing at the spots she wants people in. That's not a 23-year-old guard being difficult. That's an MVP candidate who finished 4th in voting last season behind A'ja Wilson, Nafisa Collier, and Alyssa Thomas, and decided the gap is closing this year. Holding teammates to a standard is exactly what the league's best players do. The question is whether the rest of the roster is ready to be held to it.
Don't get me wrong, I know this is an easy team. They were missing all their bigs. Malunga, Awa, Izzy, right? They were missing everybody. Understandable, right? But you still want your star to look like a star when playing teams that are weaker, all right? And honestly, look, this team is in the WNBA. We hold them to the same standards. I don't care, all right? They're in the WNBA for a reason. So I don't care, man. I don't care. Caitlin looked like how she was supposed to look going against a weaker team, almost dropping a triple-double on there.
This is the part of the schedule where Indiana has to bank wins, full stop. Seattle was missing Dominique Malonga, along with multiple front-court rotation pieces. They got smacked on the glass, 38-24. They shot the ball poorly. That's the expectation. But notice the standard being applied here, because it matters. You don't get a participation trophy for beating a depleted opponent. You're supposed to look like a star. You're supposed to dominate every facet of the game. Clark hit that bar. Aaliyah Boston shot 100% from the floor, on her way to 8 points. The team shot 100% from the free throw line, as a unit. Those are the headline-friendly numbers. But the surface stats are hiding a problem that's about to get a lot more attention as the schedule sharpens, and once you see it on tape, you can't unsee it. The roster construction has a hole in it that Stephanie White is going to have to scheme around or trade for. There is no third option.
They got ugly. All right, once again, it got ugly. That's my biggest concern, is finding and identity when Caitlin is off the floor. I feel like they need to run through Raven because I think her defense is a tad bit better than Ty. Ty plays some pretty decent defense. Now, I'm going to give her credit, but I think Raven, man, they can unlock something special in Raven if they figure out how to get her to play make. Instead of just making her give the ball up at the top of the key or on the perimeter and then start running around setting screens and getting screens for off-ball stuff.
That breakdown right there is the single biggest issue facing this Fever team, and the box score is doing everything it can to bury it. When Caitlin Clark sits down, there is no offensive identity on the floor. The second unit doesn't know who's initiating. They don't know who's the primary creator. They don't know whose job it is to organize a possession when the shot clock hits 14. Ty and Raven combined for 2 assists across the entire game. 2. That's not a typo, and it's not a small sample issue. That's an entire backup unit playing pickup basketball with no organizing principle whatsoever. Until the coaching staff decides who actually runs the offense in those stretches, every minute Clark sits is going to be a coin flip against any opponent with a functional defense. Right now they got away with it because Seattle was depleted. The next opponent who isn't depleted is going to make them pay for it.
I won't say too much, but I do want them to add Passat to the lineup. I want them to add Passat to the rotation because Passat is going to knock down open shots, open opportunities. You see where some players who can't necessarily shoot like that, they get the ball or don't have the confidence. They get the ball open, drive into traffic and try to take a shot because they're not confident in the open shot. So I just want them to try a little harder, man. Try a little harder on whatever they're doing with Passat. Get her on the floor. I don't know if y'all work.
Let me walk through what this game actually told us, because the box score is hiding the real story underneath a comfortable margin of victory. Start with what we already covered on the stat line. 21-10 in roughly 3/4 of work. That is an MVP candidate's production line, full stop. And the most important detail about it is the one that's getting glossed over by the highlight crowd. Clark had every opportunity to chase the triple-double down the stretch, and the franchise made a coaching decision to take that opportunity away from her. The trip to the tunnel for whatever was getting readjusted, the cautious return to the bench, the decision to keep her seated for the rest of the game. That's not Stephanie White being conservative for no reason. That's a head coach 4 games into a long regular season, looking at a 14-point lead against a depleted opponent, and deciding that no individual stat line is worth the injury risk. Caution is the correct read. Indiana plays at least 36 more regular season games, and they need her healthy for every single one. Now flip to the chemistry concern, because this is the actual story coming out of the win. Aaliyah Boston shot 100% from the field, 8 points on perfect efficiency. That looks clean on paper. Watch the half-court possessions on tape, and the picture gets murkier. Clark and Boston are still running on slightly different timing in the pick and roll. Either Clark is hitting the pocket pass a half-second too early, or Boston is rolling a half-step too late. They figure it out individually, through broken plays and second-chance creation. But the designed actions are not flowing the way they were at the end of last season. That has to get cleaned up before the schedule gets harder, because championship offenses live and die in the 2-player game between the lead guard and the rolling big. Indiana has both of those pieces at an all-star level. They do not have the chemistry yet. The backup guard problem deserves its own breakdown because it is a 5-alarm fire hiding behind a comfortable scoreline. Kelsey Mitchell scored 17 points on 8 of 10 shooting, which is elite efficiency, and she tied Sophie Cunningham for second on the team in points. That number flatters the actual situation. Mitchell handed out 2 assists for the entire game. Lexi Hull, who finished with 9 points and 4 rebounds, added 2 more. The guards on this roster who aren't Caitlin Clark are not playing make at all. When Clark sits, there is nobody on the floor whose first instinct is to find a teammate before looking at the rim. That is a structural problem, not a matchup problem. Stephanie White has 2 real options going forward. She can commit to running the bench units through Raven and force her to develop as a playmaker in real game minutes, even if it costs them possessions while she learns. Or she can stagger Clark's minutes, so the franchise player is never off the floor for more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time. There is no third path. The current arrangement is unsustainable against any playoff-caliber defense. Lexi Hull is a separate concern that the box score is hinting at without spelling out. 3 for 8 from the field, 9 points on a night where the team needed every shooter making them. Hull is a knockdown perimeter threat when she's right. She's a hustle player at all times, with the defense to match. Her 3 ball is what unlocks her entire offensive value. and right now it is not falling consistently. Last season she went through stretches where the shot disappeared for 8-10 games at a stretch. Indiana cannot afford that kind of slump from a rotation wing this year. Because if Hull's spacing dries up, Clark gets bracketed by exactly the kind of three-defender swarm we already saw in this game, and she gets it on every single possession down the floor. Sophie Cunningham is the bright spot nobody was projecting, and the bench piece Indiana needs to figure out how to feature more aggressively. 17 points, 5 of 9 shooting, 3 rebounds, a steal, a block, 3 turnovers, which is the only blemish. That's a physical, productive 25 minutes off the bench from a player who was acquired primarily for hustle, defense, and toughness, and who is now putting up scoring numbers that double her career averages. If the coaching staff can build lineups where Cunningham gets to attack from the second unit while either Clark or Mitchell stays on the floor as a release valve, suddenly that bench problem starts looking a lot more solvable. She's not a 17-point-per-game player long-term, but 6 to 8 quality shot attempts a night against second units? That changes the math. The mystery name in this whole conversation is the bench piece the host keeps lobbying to see on the floor. The shooter who can knock down open looks without needing to create her own offense, whether she's still working her way back from an injury, building her conditioning, or just stuck behind the existing rotation. The Fever roster math only works if that player gets activated. Because right now the second unit has hustle, defense, and rebounding off the bench. It does not have spacing. And spacing is what separates a really good Caitlin Clark regular season team from an actual championship contender in May and June. Step back and look at the schedule context, because this matters for how you weigh tonight. Indiana is in the soft early stretch of their slate. Seattle was depleted. Other recent opponents have been missing pieces. The Fever should be racking up wins in this exact window, and they are doing exactly that. 2-2 would have been a real concern. The current record against weakened competition is acceptable but not impressive, which is the honest read. The first real test is coming, and how this team performs against a healthy roster with playoff-caliber defensive personnel will tell us whether the chemistry concerns and the bench identity issues are growing pains or systemic flaws baked into the roster. The MVP race context matters here too. A'ja Wilson is the presumptive favorite because she's the best player in the world, and Las Vegas is built to run through her every single possession. Nafisa Collier is going to put up monster numbers in Minnesota all season long. Brianna Stewart is healthy and motivated. Alyssa Thomas is doing Alyssa Thomas things in Phoenix, stuffing every column on the stat sheet. Clark is firmly in the conversation, but the voters in this league need to see consistent dominance, not just flashes against bad teams. Every game where she gets pulled before the fourth quarter starts is a game where her cumulative counting stats can't grow. Voters look at totals. So every minute Stephanie White rests her franchise player for legitimate health reasons is a minute that quietly hurts her individual MVP case. There's a real tension there between team management and individual hardware. And Indiana is going to have to navigate it deliberately if they want both. So the question coming out of this game is not whether Caitlin Clark is going to be great. We already have the answer. The question is whether the front office and the coaching staff have built a roster that can survive a playoff series. Because postseason basketball, where every possession matters and every weakness gets exploited, is going to demand a functional second unit. It's going to demand a synced pick and roll between Clark and Boston. It's going to demand a backup guard who can create something out of nothing. Indiana has 36+ regular season games left to figure those pieces out. So tell me what you saw in this one. Was the early hook on Clark the right call by Stephanie White protecting her star, or did she just walk away from a triple-double that her MVP case can't afford to leave on the table? Drop your honest take in the comments below. Hit the like button if you want more breakdowns like this one. And keep it locked here, because the schedule is about to get a whole lot more interesting. And the chemistry questions we just laid out are going to get answered one way or another in the next handful of games.